From the 22 News Plus studio, this is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. We are here in the 22 News Plus studios. If you've been paying attention to the news recently, there's a bill coming out of the State House out in Boston. I guess I don't know what the official name is. We'll get into that in a moment, but a lot of people are calling it the Miles Traveled Bill. And there's a lot of concern here in Western Mass that we will be the ones hurt the most from it. So I am so excited today to bring into the studio, once again, Massachusetts State Senator Joanne Comerford. And the reason I have her here is because she is on the committee that is working on this. She's a state senator because it is coming out of the Senate. And most importantly, you have one of the largest districts in the state. So if it truly is a tax to the residents, your constituents are going to get hurt most. So thank you for joining me
Absolutely.
today.
And I was happy to be asked back, Patrick, to talk about this.
Let's go back in time. What is the bill? When did it come out? Why are we all talking about it now at the start of 2026 versus, when it first came out?
Let me hopefully dispel some concern because there's just no way in the world that I would allow legislation that would hurt my people disproportionately. So first of all, I'm not on the committee that reported it out. It was filed by a colleague of mine who I like very much, and she filed the bill in January last year.
So a year ago.
A year ago. And then it goes through the committee process. What happened was it came out of a committee called the Joint Committee on Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy, big name, TUE, and it got picked up in the news in Eastern Massachusetts. And unfortunately, the early reports were just full of inaccuracies. So let me tell you what the bill isn't. It's called the Freedom to Move Bill. And what the bill isn't is a miles tax. There's no penalties. There's no Big Brother-esque tracking of how much I would drive as an individual. Nothing like that. The bill itself, again, not filed by me, but filed by my colleague, seeks to basically marry, in a good way, in a planning way, in a budget way, climate policy with transportation policy.
Okay.
And the irony—
which overall sounds like the right move.
It's a good move for the climate. It's a great move for Western Massachusetts.
Really?
Yeah, because we lack disproportionately access to public transit.
Okay, makes
right?
sense.
And we know that in order to grow our economies, to move workers, to get people to education, to healthcare, we need a more robust bus system, rail system, microtransit system. And what that would do is it would say it would look at the vehicle miles traveled, which it would do in the aggregate, right? So not an individual, but in the aggregate, how many cars are on the road, it would say—
So not how many miles you're traveling, because you travel way more miles than I do because you're back and forth to Boston
I travel
all the time.
an obscene amount of miles. But what it would say is, why are those people on the road? Oh, in Western Mass, they don't have adequate RTA service. Let's invest in Western Mass. So the irony is that some people, not all, but some people thought this was about penalizing us as drivers. But in fact, it was a diagnostic tool that could return more money to the infrastructure, public infrastructure. Now, the bill is not moving in the Senate. It was reported out of committee. And as you know, it has to pass both chambers, be signed by the governor. I don't think there's a path forward for it because of the public misunderstanding about it. But it doesn't make it a less good idea.
Right.
And we'll have to work that out.
What I want to pull up now is this is the bill.
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
Cheaters on for all of us.
Yeah, we have to put the glasses on.
So this is the bill. First and foremost, I don't know how you as a legislator understand all of this jargon in here. But what I want to do is, and I've highlighted what I feel is the most important line of the bill. So I will scroll down.
Sort of a long bill. So
it is.
The fact that you've narrowed in.
Here.
Yeah.
I will scroll down to, it is fairly long, but there is a line in here where, right here. So this says the development of compact. Oh, no, that's the wrong one.
Well, that's also a good thing to note.
Okay.
Look there just for folks, right? So the development of compact walkable neighborhoods, advancement of and access to affordability of non-personal vehicle transportation options. That's just what we were talking about,
Okay.
Patrick,
All
right? That's, do we have enough buses out here? Do we have enough microtransit? Do we have rail of any kind? Now we have robust north-south rail. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that's intercity, not commuter, as we know.
Right.
So go ahead, keep going.
So then the next one, and I think I finally found it. This is the one I think most people
Yeah, they narrowed in.
are concerned about. And I'll read it for those folks who may not have their cheaters on. Identification and discussion of current policies and recommendations for policies, laws, and regulatory actions that may facilitate, and this is the word, reductions in vehicle miles traveled. So I think most people are interpreting that as, oh, wait a minute.
They're going to take our cars off the road.
You're going to take my car, or you're going to charge me more because I drive 25 miles a day, round trip from my home in Westfield to the station. Right. You drive way more than that.
Yeah. One day this week, I was in the car for 6.5 hours. Oh. Right. That's almost a day of work. Right. So what that's doing is it's saying it's going to, let me just say, I'm sure listeners understand the carrot stick analogy, right? Do you do something through punitive measures, or do you get a carrot to change behavior? This is a carrot bill. People are afraid it's a stick bill. So they're afraid, one day Joe Comerford's going to get an email and I'm going to say, oh, sorry, you can't go to Boston today because that 6.5 hour crazy commute that you do, or it's not usually 6.5 hours, but it is still, sometimes.
It's at least 2.
Well, this week it was 4 one way, 2.5 home, right? So 4, 2, just crazy week. But that commute you're going to do, you can't do it anymore. Right. That's not what this bill is saying. It's not going to charge me more. It's not going to track
when we get our state vehicle inspections every year, they're not going to look at the miles and say, okay, you went over X, whatever the bar they set, 9,000.
Nothing. That is not what this bill is about. Okay. It might say, wow, Western Massachusetts has a lot of miles, a lot of cars on the road, and a lot of car ownership, right? That's one thing that we don't talk about often in Western Mass. You have to own a car.
You do.
No, not everybody does. I don't mean to be elitist in any way, but not everybody owns a car. And but we often say out here, in order to get to school, get to the doctor, get groceries, get your kids, get to work, right? A car, especially in more rural areas, is
quickest way.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's the only way. Yeah. Right? There's no public transportation. Right. So what it's going to say is, wow, they need a public transit infrastructure if we want to reduce emissions from single occupancy vehicles.
Okay.
Right? So, like HOV lanes, high occupancy, that's a carrot, right? Travel with a few more people and you get to go into the fast lane. That's not even this. It's saying, where are the cars on the road? Oh, okay. If we value offering people an opportunity to leave their car at home, then we have to have public transit. So again, the irony here with this bill, which lots of folks, I get it, right? I'm not going to say the outlet. I'm not going to say the outlet, but they talked about it as if it was a mileage tax, even though there is zero language about that in the bill, right? They just went to bad legislators, bad legislature. Again, they made that choice as media, but this is not that. This is a carrot. And it could be really good for us.
So here. I'm going to hold you there because when we come back,
we're going to talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Stay with us. We're back in just a moment.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to today's edition of In Focus. State Senator Joanne Comerford is sitting across the desk from me today. She is from the Hampshire, Franklin, Worcester district, probably one of the largest districts in the state from a representation standpoint. We were talking about there's a bill going through the Senate out in Beacon Hill. Most people are calling it the miles traveled bill. What's the real name of it?
The Freedom to Move Act.
The Freedom to Move Act. Yeah. And earlier we pulled up the bill on the on the computer and on the screen, so you could see exactly what it says. Senator Comerford has been kind enough to kind of dispel a lot of the concerns about that. But that begs the question of living here in Western Mass, we don't have the infrastructure and the ability to move freely in mass transit forms. I lived in the New York City metropolitan area for years. Trains are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. You don't think twice about getting on a train and going somewhere. So the idea of east-west rail, I love it. You pointed out north-south rail is already in place, but it's not a commuter.
It's intercity.
Somebody from Northampton or Greenfield would not be able to take the rail to Springfield and get here to Channel 22. It would take. I can't even believe
they just
long.
don't run. They don't run
Right.
often enough to make it a commuter rail.
So, what is the bigger picture here in the state about creating better transportation options for the residents?
So I will say that the Western Mass delegation is really united in our work around public transit. And it's in a lot of different areas. And we do that work together. We do that work by pulling out administration colleagues so they can be with us. There's a picture you're going to show of a transportation secretary in Franklin County, where we brought a transportation secretary, the highway director out, and we said, okay, let's talk rail, both west-east on both tiers, the southern tier from Pittsfield to Boston, the northern tier from North Adams to Boston. Let's talk north-south and what we can do to advance those.
Right.
Let's talk RTAs, both fare-free. Oh, go ahead. You want to jump in?
So those meetings, like you see in this picture,
that's me making my hand gesture that I do,
which is good. But as a constituent, do those meetings help, or is it just give the public the perception that your voice is being heard?
No, it's so important that you ask this question. They really are the secret sauce, because what we have to do as legislators is bring administration and legislative colleagues out so that they can hear from experts and folks most affected by any policy or budget decision. It's fine for Joe Comerford to go to Boston and talk about my 25 cities and towns, my 787 square miles, what my people want and need and deserve. But it's a whole other thing for us to bring people out to meet with planners and engineers and municipal officials and people most affected by transportation policy, to hear the story, see the data, and then take field trips, right? So in another picture, we're in a bus. We took them through dirt roads. We took them over bridges that needed to be rebuilt. We showed them the size of distance between places. We showed them where there was no bus service running, none. Not even forget about fixed route. Not even an on-demand shuttle wasn't running. And
Uber's in a lot of areas here in Western Mass, it's not even an option.
Yeah, it's like one guy, right? It's like, the industry's picking up as we bring more tourists here, as we open more businesses here, as our downtowns become more walkable. These are good advances.
Right.
But the secret to moving people, the secret to piercing through, what I call the 128 gate, right? I'm always want to bust through that gate. The secret is to open hearts and minds, right? People have to feel what we feel, see what we see, and understand.
I feel that we're somewhat lucky here, not only in Massachusetts, but in New England. We have smaller states. I can't imagine Montana, Oklahoma, Nevada, where your state government gets out frequently enough to the rural areas. I mean, again, it's 2+ hours to get to Boston, but it's only 2+ hours. Montana, it's a flight, to get from one end to the other. I think it's important and valuable that the legislators from Boston that may be based in Boston come out to our area. The governor, lieutenant governor,
they're here a lot.
Whoever,
economic development, arts, travel and tourism, health and human services, you name it. They come. They either come at the invitation of the legislature, so we're always pulling folks west, or they come because they're good humans, right? They're doing their good job, on behalf of Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. But it is the stuff that's helping to build the momentum that the delegation has right now. Where, when I got in, Patrick, I heard this all the time. I heard, oh, those people in Boston, they're never going to do anything for us.
It's been a phrase out here for as long as people can remember.
And I said, no way. I'm not ever ascribing to that, because I have to believe that change is possible.
Right.
Why would I go to work every day?
Right.
And we have seen changes, right?
Good.
So we've seen pretty significant investment in microtransit and RTA service. So zippy little public Ubers, I call them, right? On demand or door to door. They're happening now. We're funding them through the state budget, not just through earmarks.
Good.
We have rail moving, and we're going to talk a little bit about Northern Tier, but we have rail moving in real substantive ways. Do I want it to move faster? You betcha.
I think we all do.
But,
exactly.
And our road and bridge money is also getting honest. So there's something called Chapter 90.
Okay.
It's what the state appropriates to cities and towns.
That has to be used for roads, bridges.
For road repair, and expansion if they want it. Of course, the algorithm that's created, inside the 128 belt, right? It used to say, okay, we're going to give this out. It's huge money. We're going to give this out, and we're going to think about road miles, population, and resulting economic activity. Well, you know what? We don't have the people. We have disproportionately less economic activity, but you know what we have? We have the miles.
Exactly.
So we were getting royally underfunded for way too long. It's changing.
Good.
So we're giving out substantial percentages. It was 1/3 miles only, Chapter 90 money coming out. I want 50% of it out in this budget, and I'm going to push for that.
Good.
And we're getting real money to bridge infrastructure. So, I think that's because we're getting better and better about making demands, showing solutions, and actually building the social and political power necessary to break through the 128 gate. But it's also because we've got a good administration.
Right. Very good. We are up on our second break. Stay with us. We've still got more to talk about, so we're back in just a moment.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to today's edition of In Focus. I've got Massachusetts State Senator Joanne Comerford sitting across the desk from me. Senator Comerford, thank you so very much for joining me.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure's mine. So we've been talking about, it's Bill S2246. It's the Freedom to Move Act. Folks, you can go on the Massachusetts State Gov website, look it up.
MAlegislature.gov, yeah.
There you go. And because there's a lot of confusion about how this bill is basically going to hurt Western Mass people, you've covered that is not the case.
No, that's the grim irony of all of the concern, is that it's actually a pretty positive bill for us.
Good.
I don't think the bill itself is going to move.
But it all it's tied into making transportation better for the residents. And we here in Western Mass, we need better transportation.
100%. And
in the last part, just before the commercial break, we talked about the expansion of things. I want to bring up a picture now. This is in the highlighted yellow. Explain this to me.
Yeah, so this is a map created by MassDOT of what we call Northern Tier Rail. So the exciting thing is that in the 4 Western counties, there are 4 rail projects. There's the Southern Tier that we talked about from Pittsfield to Boston. That's underway. We have tens of millions of dollars moving now on the infrastructure. You and I want it to go faster,
Exactly.
Right? There's north-south. We call that the Valley Flyer. And that's up and down, back and forth from Vermont down through Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, and up again. And it's actually, the service is robust. It's run by Amtrak. It's not commuter.
Right.
It's intercity.
It's Amtrak, right.
And then there's something in the Berkshires called Berkshire Flyer, which is a hookup from New York City. And then there's the Northern Tier. So I have to say, the Northern Tier Rail, it was my first bill I ever passed.
So is the Northern Tier there, or is it proposed?
The Northern Tier is there.
Oh.
So tracks are down we had, up until about 1968, commuter rail from North Adams. The hard thing sometimes when I get angry is that we'd be going back to something we had in the 60s, right? But okay, you can leave that aside. But the tracks are down. This would be passenger rail, commuter rail. It would start in North Adams, push to Greenfield, and then to Athol, and then to Gardner, Fitchburg, and Inn.
Right.
So it was the first bill I passed. MassDOT did a study. It looked at the economic benefits, the social benefits, the environmental benefits, the municipal benefits, right? Because we're losing population in Western Mass, right? So it would help people come here and have a viable way to get to Boston, even if they go in only 1 or 2 days a week.
Right.
So the study's been done. There's now, MassDOT is investing in another economic development study. They're interested in this. And I'm happy to tell you that the federal government, which has pulled back on some transportation funding, as I think you know, has opened something called a Corridor ID program.
Okay.
And we're applying. So MassDOT's applying. This could bring in the kind of federal money that we've had in the southern tier.
Fantastic. The last picture we have here is, it looks like a gathering of train lovers, but what is this?
It's a rally. We were kicking off the results from the study, they were robust and very heartening. And we had gathered 100 letters from major stakeholders, hospitals, universities, businesses, chambers, municipalities. Every single municipality along what's called the Route 2 corridor said to the governor, we need Northern Tier rail. And I will say, and we talked about this a little bit on the break, it's people power in Western Massachusetts that's busting through.
So these people gathered, they're actually making a difference.
They're making a huge difference. And what I want to leave people with is right now is a pretty consequential time for government, right? Mm-hmm. The governor filed what's called H2. It's her fiscal year 27 proposal. We have a transportation bill in, which gives, too much money to the MBTA. So we're going to fix that, right? But we need people in Western Massachusetts to be focused on demanding regional equity when it comes to everything. But we're talking about transportation funding today. So call the governor, call the lieutenant governor,
call your legislator.
Call your legislators. Say, fight for a fair share for Western Massachusetts.
What a great way to end. State Senator Joanne Comerford, thank you so very much for your time. A very
Pleasure.
Topical and timely conversation. Good seeing you again.
Glad to join you.
Thank you.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.